Hello and welcome to this channel and this video. Today we're going to be brewing some beer. My name's Matthew. I'm a home brewer. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I just want to take you along to show you my process and my setup and see what kind of beer we can make in a small apartment. So today we're going to be making a strong cherry wheat ale. It's going to be high ABV, very fruited, and hopefully very crowd pleasing for the end of summer here. I'm going to show you a little bit about my process on how I brew. So lots of what you'll see on YouTube is full grain, all grain brewing, and with some more fancy setups. I sadly do not have access to those resources, so I do partial mashes on my stovetop in my 5-gallon kettle here with my small brew in a bag. So I'll show you a little bit about my process. Right now I have 2.5 gallons of bottled spring water, coming up to a mash temperature of 160 degrees-ish Fahrenheit. And we'll mash in for this brew with our flaked wheat. Because this is flaked, we likely will not be getting much conversion out of the flaked wheat, because there are not going to be base malts in the mash. So we're really just using those for flavor and body in our beer here. We shouldn't be too worried about alcohol percentage. This should be pretty high, and I'll show you why in a minute. Alright, so we are up to a mash temperature of 155. I'm going in with 2 pounds of flaked wheat. I'm not too concerned about mash temperature or mash time, really, because this isn't a real mash. Because we don't have any base grains in here, I don't think we're really going to get conversion on this addition. This is really for flavor and mouthfeel in the brew here. It's difficult as a partial mash brewer when we compare recipes to all grain brewers, because they are always mashing in with their base malt and their flavor additions in the same mash. It is possible to do that as a partial grain brewer, but it is very difficult to get the proper ratios of base malts to flavor malts to reach full conversion. And so when I design recipes for my partial mash, I, for the most part, am not accounting for large ABV additions or sugar additions in the mash. This is just a sacrifice I have to make with the setup, and it leads to just needing a little bit more liquid extract. So, yeah. So we have reached the end of the mash, and we are gonna pull out the grain bag. So this is going to be super, can you come in here? Yeah. It's super thick and sludgy because of this flaked wheat. And we're probably going to lose quite a bit of water to the grains here. So I'm going to really take my time and squeeze the heck out of the bag to get as much of that liquid back out as possible. Again, we're not really concerned with sugars here. We really just want the body and the flavor of this flaked wheat. And so I'm going to work as best I can to squeeze out this grain bag of all its juice so that we can move on to the boil. So I'll catch you then. So as you can see, we've just about reached a boil here. So that means it's time to add our liquid extracts. So I have 7 pounds of that in hot water. The hot water makes it so that it pours out of these bags a lot easier. So it goes into the kettle much more easily. So I'm going to have my assistant here help me while I pour these in. and stir. I'm going to turn off the heat, and we're going to add these in. So we need 2 hands, so we'll catch you after we've added them. In with our liquid extracts, as you can see, the color of the beer has changed significantly. I am just scraping the bottom of the pot here to make sure that nothing is on the bottom, because if some of that sugar will sink right to the bottom and it'll scorch on the heating element of your stove, and it will ruin your beer here. So scraping the bottom, making sure this is really well mixed in. This is going to take a bit of time to get back up to a boil because we've just added a bunch more extract, and we'll see you then. So we are just about at a boil, close enough. It'll happen in the next minute here. I'm going in with a hop addition of 1 ounce of Hallertau Mittelfrühe. This will be in for 30 minutes. We're going to do a 30-minute boil because I don't want to wait an hour. So we'll go in with this. Very good. So we have about 10 minutes left in our boil. I have put in my wort chiller. That is a homemade wort chiller. Maybe show you more in another video. And we're going in with a little bit of yeast nutrient, half teaspoon here, just to make sure we have a healthy fermentation. This is going to be a pretty high ABV fermentation, so we're probably going to stress the yeast out, so hopefully this will help us out there. Alright. Okay, so we've reached the end of the boil here. I'm going to shut the stove off, and you'll get to see my cooling setup here. So this is probably the jankiest part of my setup. So we're going to take the pot, and I'm going to move it down here. I have, out of my homemade wort chiller, we'll get a tube in the water, a tube in the bucket, and then, as you can see, there's a pot up top, and down below I will start to siphon the water down. Here we go. So that'll start flowing. We should get flow here. It'll take some amount of time depending on how cool the groundwater is today. I will stir the wort here, and we'll start cooling down. So we have cooled down. Wort's probably at 100 degrees. I'm going to add a dilution because this is probably 2.5 gallons. I have another 2.5 gallons here. Hopefully to get, probably not all of this, probably about 4 gallons in the keg. We'll eyeball it. It's not super important. And yeah, so I'm going to let this drain, and then we'll take out the cooler, and then we'll transfer into the keg here. So keg is sanitized, and we're going to ferment this under pressure at room temperature because that's what my setup allows. So we'll take the stuff out here. And this guy. Trying to leave the wort as undisturbed as we can get it. There should be a break between the hop debris and other junk that should have settled out to the bottom. And so we're trying to leave it as much as we can, but you know, there's no perfect way to do it. So there's all that, and then we'll transfer in here. So this is another risky part of my setup here. This transfer can be difficult, but we'll see what we can do. So we take this, go right into the sanitized keg. So I'm looking in the bottom of the wort here to see when we're going to switch over to mostly hot matter. And right about there, that's all just sludge. We don't need any of that that's left in the kettle. We can leave it in the kettle. So, if you can see past the sanitizing foam, we have probably, I guess, 2.5 gallons of wort in there. So I'm going to add probably 1.5 gallons of colder spring water. Hopefully this brings us down to fermenting temperatures. Alright, so now we are adding water. A little bit slow, but we don't want to add too much, so we're going to keep our eye on this as it rises, and we will see what total volume of beer we're going to be making today. Okay, so we're in the keg with the wort. I'm going to check the temperature here. So leaving a solid amount of headroom in the fermenter so that we don't have a bomb on our hands. So temperature, yeah, we're sitting about 66 degrees, so we should be fine to pitch yeast. So I'm gonna actually, before we pitch, I'm gonna close this guy up, and we're gonna aerate our wort. There are fancy ways of doing this, but I do not have that technology, so we're just gonna shake it. So, I'll see you in a minute. So, we've shaken up our keg here, nice and foamy. So we're gonna pitch our yeast. If I was smarter, I'd have 2 packets of USO5 ready to go, but I don't. I have 1. So we're gonna put a lot of faith in this one yeast packet. Hopefully he's enough to get us through fermentation on this high gravity beer. In with that. Right on top. I don't hydrate the yeast or anything. I go straight into the fermenter. I think it's the most sanitary way to do things. So, I will close up this fermenter, sanitize my lid. That goes on. And I will whack on my spunding valve. I'll probably keep this at just a few psi. I'm really not looking to put stress on this yeast. I am just hoping to slow it down because we will be fermenting at room temperature. So probably 5-10 pounds of psi, it doesn't really matter. And we'll check back in when we do the fruit addition. Okay. So, we've been fermenting for 3 or 4 days now. The bulk of primary fermentation is over. The airlock has settled down a little bit, so I'm going to go in with our fruit addition. I have 6 pounds of Oregon fruit cherry. This stuff is a little expensive, but I have had very good results with it, so I trust it. I'm going in with 6 pounds, which should be a lot. If you get in there, there may not be enough headspace in the fermenter here, so we'll see if there's enough room. Here we go. Go. Oh, it's all foamy. Oh. Oh. Alright, so here's the finished beer. It is a really nice dark red color, and the head is a little pink from the cherry. I think it looks really good. It carbonated up really nicely. So we'll give it a taste. Yeah, so you can really taste the cherry. I think I ended up only being able to use 1.5 packs. I can't remember how many ounces. I'll put it in the recipe, but how many ounces of cherry that was. But it actually ended up being the perfect amount of cherry. It still's, you know, it's beer. It's not smoothie, but the you get a nice cherry flavor without too much cherry sweetness. Tons of flavor. Really nice, clean fermentation from the pressure fermentation. So not a ton of yeast characteristics. A little bit of, you know, like malty beerness. Not tons, but more than, you know, a macro lager. but that cherry flavor really comes through, and this is a really awesome beer. So I hope you guys give it a brew, and let me know how it goes for you. Thanks.